Hello everyone, welcome to MastersTeach, and today we'll discuss about the Indian Constitution and law. So it is part of your TET syllabus. It is taken from the 8th standard of Social Studies, chapter 13 and 15. Okay, what we're going to discuss: the Constituent Assembly, the Preamble, role of law and judiciary, and civil versus criminal law. Okay, we'll see about the Constituent Assembly. So, India's Constituent Assembly was formed a body of elected representatives who debated and drafted foundational document of the nation. So, the Constituent Assembly President uh, Dr. Rajendra Prasad is the first President of India. Okay, then drafting committee. It is headed by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. He is the chief architecture of our Indian constituency. The time taken approximately 3 years. Okay, then the facts you have to remember here. On 26th November 1949, the constitution adopted by the Constituent Assembly, and on 26th January 1950, actually it is implemented. So the constituency came into effect on Republic Day, 26th January 1950. Then after, so it is taken almost 3 years. Okay, so it is frequently asked that in TET examination that constituency adapted uh, in 1949, 26 November, and it is enforced or started on 26th January 1950. So there is a thing you have to remember. Then the preamble, the soul of the constituency. So everything is there in our textbook. Okay. So if you want to, you have to buy it. Okay. Or just listen. I'll read it for you. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved the constituency India into sovereign, socialist, secular, and democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all. So, fraternity ensure that dignity of all the individuals and the unity and the integrity of the nation. So, in our Constituent Assembly, this 26th November 1949, okay, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this constituency. This is the preamble of the soul of the constituency. Okay, the key principles of preamble. So it is a sovereign, it is a socialist, it is secure, it is a democratic republic. What is sovereign? So India is free from any external control. So Supreme Court authority resists with the peoples. That means India is to take any decision without any external control. So they have the supreme authority over the people without any control of any external thing. That is sovereign. So the king, monarch, you have to remember, socialist. So that means it is equal distribution of wealth and reducing the economic inequality. Secular means so India has there is no official religion, so no state religion. All faith treated are equal by the government. No Hindu, no Christian, no Muslim, no Sikh. Everybody is the same. Democratic republic. So elected government accountable to the people, elected head of the state by the people, to the people, for the people. So that is a democratic republic. The key principles of the preamble. Okay. So sovereign, that means India is free from any external control. Okay, supreme authority rests with the people. Socialist, equal distribution of wealth and reduce the economic uh, inequality. Then secular, that means India has no religion. So Indian government treats all the religion equally. Democratic republic, it is elected by the people, it is accountable to the people. So that is the democratic republic. So the core value of preamble, JELF. You have to remember this. What is JELF? Justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. What is justice? Social, economic, and political justice. So fair treated all the citizens irrespective of their caste, class, creed, gender, region, religion. So everybody has the equal treatment in form of social, economic, and political. Then equality. So equal status and opportunity for every citizen before the law. Liberty. So it is a freedom of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship. Fraternity. So sense of brotherhood. So promoting unity and dignity of the individual. This is the thing. Yes, these are core values. Okay. So, justice, social, economic, and political. Fair treatment for all the citizens, regardless of caste, creed, gender, religion. Equality. JELF. Equality means equal status and opportunity for every citizens before the law. Then liberty, freedom of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship. Fraternity, that is sense of brotherhood. So you have to promote everybody treat as a brother and sisters. So there should be a unity. So that is the thing about and you have to treat everyone with a dignity. So always remember about the JELF: justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. So secularism in the constitution. What is secularism? So every day everybody talks about the secular and this thing secular means the state, the government does not enforce or encourage any religion. So all the citizens free to practice or profess or propagate or advertise their faith. That is the secularism. Okay, what it prevents. So one should not dominate other religion. Okay, religious discrimination. There should not be any encourage to any religion. So you should not use government funds for the religious promotion. So secularism added to the preamble by 42nd Amendment in 1976. So many times they may ask in the examination. Secularism was added to the preamble on with the 42nd Amendment in 1976. You have to remember. Then rule of the law. So rule of the law is cornerstones of democratic society. It means law is supreme and applies equal everyone. So whether it is official or politician or anyone, so even government itself, no one is above the law. But previously, when the British government ruled, uh, the Sedition Act of 1870, it was arbitrary and applied only to the Indians under the rule. So who is equal? Only Indians are equal in front of the law, but not British. Okay, so violence of the rule of the principle. This is a key example you have to remember. Then independence of the judiciary. So like law, okay, or judiciary. So they have independence. They can take the decisions on their own without any pressure, free from legislature. So judges cannot be pressured by parliament or state assembly. So you cannot pressure the judge who gives a judge to pressurize directed by the parliament or any state assembly or any person. So it is a free from legislature. Even assembly or parliament cannot pressure on judges. Free from executive. Okay, even government officials cannot direct or interfere in the court judgment or court verdict. Okay, protector of law rights. So the the court itself safeguard the fundamental rights of every citizen. So this is the thing, independence of the judiciary as per the preamble. Then an independent judiciary ensures that justice delivered impartiality, irrespective of whether you are a child of home minister or child of a father of a normal person, everybody equal in front of the law. So it's a bedrock functioning of democracy. Then let us see civil law versus criminal law. Okay, even I teach this for the law students, okay, being LLB. So what is the basic difference between civil law and criminal law? So like nature, offense against society. If something is done against society, that become criminal law. So civil law, it is disputes between the individual. Example, if you're doing theft, murder, dowry, harassment, or cheating, which comes under criminal law. Whereas related to land, rent, marriage disputes, it comes under civil law. So the criminal law initiated by through police FIR. So when you are written any complaint in FIR, then the complaint will be taken. That become criminal law. Then civil law. It is aggrieved party. Two parties are there. Okay. Then outcome. So in criminal law, punishment is there, imprisonment is there, fine is there, or whereas civil law, compensation or injection order or prevent. Injection order means you prevent to do something like that, okay, or permanent injection order, that is the civil law. You have to remember the things, okay. So the role of FIR, first information report, is the formal written document recorded by police when the conceivable offense is reported. So it says like entire criminal justice process in motion. Without an FIR, police cannot legally begin the investigation. So you have to first report the information. Okay, there is FIR in the police station, and they will investigate. Okay, here the investigation takes place. Police collect the evidence and statement, then prosecution. So case presented to the court and by the prosecutor. This is the role of FIR. Okay, hierarchy of courts. So in Indian courts, how it is that there are three tiers of hierarchy. Okay, three types of hierarchy, three levels of hierarchy, as like Supreme Court, High Court, District Courts. So these are called as like higher courts binding authority over the lower court. So higher courts have the authority over lower courts. This principle called as precedent. What is called precedent? Okay. Then the three tier system. One is Supreme Court. It is national level final authority. Then High Court. Every state has one High Court. Then subordinate and district courts. Okay. So it is, forget about this one. Subordinate courts, district courts, and mandal level, something like that. These are the things. So this is in Supreme Court. See, whatever the decision is taken in lower courts, subordinate courts or high court or district courts, the final is the statement by the Supreme Court. So decision of the Supreme Court binding of all courts. So high court decisions bind all the subordinate courts within the state. So this ensure that uniformity law across all India. So public interest litigation. What is that? Pill. Okay, pill. Pill matlab, what is that? A legal tool introduced by the Supreme Court. I will zoom it. Okay. What is pill? Public interest litigation. So, a legal tool introduced by the Supreme Court in 1980 that allows any citizen to file a petition on behalf of who cannot access the justice themselves. First, one person unable to go to the court or inability due to poverty or illiteracy, but is getting injustice. So, on behalf of anybody can file, those who are afflicted, okay, that is called as PIL, public interest litigation. Why it is matter? So through which even poorest of the poor can get justice. So government and institution accountable has to let the landmark environment and human rights ruling. So bill. So remember, it is introduced in 1980 by the Supreme Court to democratic access to justice. So the landmark bill example, so uh, Hussainara cartoon versus state of Bihar. So this is the thing. So the bill is filed under trial. Prisoners launching in jail without trial. So led to release 40,000 people. Prisoners except the right to speedy trial. So there was thing happen without any trial. So they went to the jail. Okay, they become prisoners. So somebody like uh, Hussainara Cotton versus State of Bihar. So Hussainara made the bill through which these 40,000 people got released. MC Mehta versus Union of India. So it is MC Mehta. So he like appealed for the bill personal interest litigation. So bill against the industrial pollution of the Ganga River. Supreme Court ordered closure of pollution tanneries near Varanasi. Then Vishaka state of Rajasthan in 1997. So public interest litigation on sexual harassment of women at workplace led the Vishaka guidelines later enacted in the POSH Act 2013. So Bandhao Mukti Morcha versus Union Government of India, 1984. So personal public interest litigation uh, like against bonded labor. So Supreme Court directed release and rehabilitation of bonded laborers. This is about the public interest litigation. So you have to remember it is introduced in 1980 in the by the Supreme Court. You have to remember. Then what we have learned. So we learn about the Constituent Assembly. It is the President Dr. Rajendra Prasad and Drafting Committee Chairman Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Preamble adopted on 26th November 1949, and it is like on 26th January 1950, it is enforced or started. That is on Republic Day, 26th January 1950. So we learned about the socialist, secular, democratic republic, and there is JELF. Okay, we learn justice, equality, liberation, fraternity. That is thing. Then court hierarchy: Supreme Court, High Court, District Court, and subordinate courts. This is the thing. So you have to practice the things. Okay. So who was the the chairman of the drafting committee of the Indian Constituency? It's the drafting chairman is the Dr. Rajendra Prasad, Dr. Jawaharlal Nehru, or Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. So the drafting committee chaired by the Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, making him as the chief architect of the constituency. On date which was the Indian constituency adapted by the Constituent Assembly. Okay, it is adapted, not enforced. 26th January 1950 or 15th August 1947 or 26th November 1949 or December 1948. So the Constituent Assembly adapted on 26th November 1949, but it is enforced on 26th January 1950. Both the dates are very essential. Okay, which of the following is not feature prescribed in the preamble of the Indian Constitution? Socialist, secular, federal, or democratic public. So federal is not mentioned in the preamble of the Indian Constitution. Preamble describes as sovereign, social, secular, democratic republic. The word federalism is not appeared in the preamble. So, however, it has a federal system. The term is absent. So that is the thing you have to remember. So this is a small presentation on my side. So you have to remember 26 November 1949, Indian Constitution adopted, and 26 January 1950 it is enforced. So most time it is asked. So preamble JELF plus four principle. Preamble has justice, equality, liberty, and fraternity. Then sovereignty is socialist, secular, and democratic republic. Judiciary is independent. It's free from legislature and executive. Supreme Court is introduced till public interest litigation in 1980. Civil versus criminal. Criminal, like you have to do FIR, then state prosecution, whereas civil, private disputes, petition. So it's a small presentation from my side. Okay, go through this video again and again so that you will score good marks. All the best for your coming examination.